Welcome to the podcast that guides men to demystify and develop their intuition. I'm your host, Doug Bites. Let's dig into the science and expand your horizons.
Welcome back to another podcast. Today I want to talk to you about what I wish I knew when I was 30. And my sons are around that age now. Some of them are older than that, in their late 30s, and some still in their early 20s. But that age of 30 is, it's a pretty prevalent age for my boys that I'm around a lot now. And I just was thinking about it this morning. What did I wish I knew when I was 30? And that's what I want to share with you, what I was going through. I can remember vividly my 30th birthday, I was depressed because my ego had kicked in and I'd set a big goal, a very big goal. And my goal wasn't complete. It was very much progressing, but I looked back and I was depressed. So I would say to those who are around that age of 30, if you've set a big goal and you want to achieve in life, just maybe chill out a bit. Why was my goal behind schedule? I don't know. I'd put in a lot of effort over the previous 2 years. And what was that goal? Well, for me, when I was 27, coming up to 28, we'd stumbled across the idea of moving overseas and building a scuba resort on a tiny little island in Micronesia, up north of the equator, between Hawaii and Guam. And we'd progressed. We'd burnt our bridges, I can tell you. I'd had a job for well over 10 years as a professional firefighter. I'd resigned from that position, which was extremely rare for people to resign from that role at that time. And this is 30 years ago, because I'm approaching my 60th birthday in a couple of months, and we're nearly at the end of 2023 now. So if you're listening to this in the future, I'm at the end of 2023, I turned 60. So my ego was there, and I look around at people in their 30s and I see it, and I see myself there, and so I'm not judging. And this goal, I wanted this scuba dive hotel, restaurant, scuba dive resort open and operating before my 30th birthday. What was the scene I looked at on my 30th birthday? 7 concrete slabs completed. That's it. The contractors, it was just before Christmas when they'd finished that. So in Australia, it's summer, and all building contractors pack up for 3 to 4 weeks and go on summer break. That's their holiday time. And so they did that, and the concrete slabs needed to cure, so they just said, "See you later, Doug, we'll be back in a month." And we'd progressed. I'd put in 2 years of a lot of hard work to get this thing together, to sell a house, get a big loan, and all sorts of things to achieve this goal. And it was well underway, but I was depressed because it hadn't happened. And because it was going so slow in my mind, I had only prepared for a short time for construction. And so financially, as time went on, after that time, while the contractors were still building, of course, there's no income. Everything's going out. We're making progressive payments to the contractor as they're, putting the roof on, getting it locked up, and all sorts of things like that. But there's no income until we can open that restaurant and those hotel rooms and take customers out scuba diving. There's zero income. It's just everything going out. So over the next year, I had to become very humble, because we met some friends over there, quite a lot of friends from America. And we had times where things were tough. The bank where we borrowed the money from at one stage decided to dry our funds up and not, and talking to them on the phone, faxes back in those days, there was no email. We weren't getting through, so I had decided I needed to get on a plane and fly to the next island where the headquarters of the bank was, to go and face-to-face talk reason with them so that the contractor could progress with the job and get it happening. And we had no money. I didn't have money for an airfare or accommodation. You know, it was only going to be overnight, but I didn't even have that money. So I had to get very humble because some friends we'd met on the island said to us, they could see the predicament we were in, and they were like 10 years older than us and 10 years wiser. They were in their early 40s. And this is why I'm doing this podcast, what I wish I knew when I was 30. And part of what I'm getting across here is when you're 30, chill out. You're all go, you're all hype, and you need to chill out. So this couple who were 10 years older than us and wiser, they said, Doug, we're going to pay for your airfare to go over there. And we know some people, we've got some connections, and it's not necessarily people they had actually knew, but there were people they knew who knew some other people live over there, and they've got a large house and a spare room. So if you like, we can make a phone call and you can stay at their place for free. And I was like, wow, this is going to be awkward. I'm going to be staying at strangers' house. I had to get humble. And I did. We accepted the gift. And these people, we had only known at that stage for months. We've known them for less than a year. However, where we were living on this tropical island, there was no television or entertainment. They finished, we had nothing to do all day watching the contractors build, and they finished work. They had a government job. They finished work at 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So we'd get together and go snorkeling. We'd have potlucks with them a few nights a week. And so we'd gotten to know these people pretty well. And yeah, they just reached out. And so when I was 30, I had to learn to become humble. Also, because there was no income there, I was relying then. I had money set aside, but it had all been eaten up. So to feed our family, I was then relying on family back in Australia to send us money at about once a month so that we could literally feed ourselves. So at 30, with my big, amazing ego and my big goal, I had to learn to be very humble and accept help from other people. And that help was very, very important. During that time, my wife, Sally, became very, very ill, and the doctors at the hospital there couldn't really work out what was wrong, and they said, if at all possible, we recommend you get on a plane and head back to Australia. That was an expensive one. We had no money for that. This same couple who donated the money for me to go and sort out the bank issue, which fortunately did sort it out once I went over face to face with them. They freed the money up again. They put the hat around and talked around to the other expats on the island and got donations to pay for the airfare for my wife to fly back to Australia. And then she stayed with family back in Australia and was able to go to doctors and things back here to get things sorted out. Very humbling with a group of strangers donating money to you. So I would say if you're in your 30s and you've got some big goals for your life and you're frustrated, chill out. It'll happen. I look back now, when I was between 45 and 50, I was living the dream of that goal of building that scuba resort. I was going to work every day. I mean, we lived at work, but quite often I was going out on the dive boat. We'd leave at 8:30 in the morning, get back about 2:30 in the afternoon. And where had I been for those hours? Out on the ocean, spending a couple of hours underwater in the top 5% of scuba diving on the planet with really interesting people. We would have new customers, like each week would come in. When I was in Australia, I'd never even met a lawyer, or the only time I'd ever met a doctor is if I had to go to the doctor. Now I've got doctors and lawyers and all sorts of professional people from all around the world flying in, sitting with me on my dive boat, and we're talking about the ways of the world and how life was going on. This is in my mid to late 40s. So I was reaping that goal that I set out to, that I was so frustrated and disappointed about on my 30th birthday because I hadn't achieved it. So I mean, I don't know what I'm going to call this episode, but I might call it Chill Out. But that's where it was for me. And then at age 53, we had a huge financial windfall when we wound the business up and sold it from that goal and dream that I had at age 30. Now, there's a book out by an author called Napoleon Hill, and it's been out for a really long time. Like, it was probably written, I'm going to guess here and be wildly wrong, probably written 80 years ago, called Think and Grow Rich. There's a huge amount of information in that book, and it's been a really long time since I've read it. I've read it a couple of times, many, many years ago. One thing he talks in there is about the age of 40. That at the age of 40, because how he put this book together is he went and interviewed hundreds and hundreds of financially successful people. So not just Olympians or people who are successful, they'd set goals and achieved them. This was very specific to finances. So don't get hooked up with other sorts of success, because success is a lot of different things. This is one very narrow spectrum of success that he studied, and that was financial success. And all it was, people who had been able to generate a lot of income in their lives. And so, and I'm just going to share this one in case that's part of, in your 30s, maybe a frustration for you. He talked about, and he found that of these hundreds and hundreds of financially successful people that he'd met, now some of them were really screwed up in many other areas of their life. They were successful financially, but they'd screwed up elsewhere. So I'm not saying if you're financially successful, you're successful. I'm not saying that for 1 second. But the key thing I want to bring out here is he'd found that those people, just about all of them, had to reach the age of 40 before things started to fall together for them and come together, and all of the jigsaw puzzle pieces started coming together. So what I'd say to you is what I wish I knew when I was 30, and I'd read that book by then, but it was like, yeah, this is some old guy coming up with that. Things have changed, the world's different now. I'd say to you, if you're financially ticked off with how your life is right now, things aren't going exactly how you'd want, just chill out. Be patient, wait. Okay? You've got this life to live. Just aim towards things. Be sensible with your, just do the basics. Be sensible with your money. Don't waste your money. I was going to say, like, risk. We took a huge risk. We burnt bridges when we went and did ours. I'd been working for 10 and a half years as a professional firefighter, left that good paying state government job and the security of it, and we sold our house, cashed in my superannuation, which is like in the US is your social security, your 401k, that sort of thing. Because we were leaving to move overseas permanently, or semi-permanently, the law at that time allowed us to tap into that. So at 30 years of age, all of that retirement income I was allowed to take. So I cashed all that in. So I seriously burnt bridges, I can tell you. We needed all that cash to help fund things, to put our big chunk of cash down so that the bank would lend us the rest. And yes, I took risks. But the reason we did is my wife and I, we talked a lot about it. And we'd decided that, we were still in our late 20s when we decided all this, that we were young and energetic enough to start over again financially if things didn't go so well. And, that sort of did happen to a degree. We had partners in the business, and after we were there 3 years, we decided it was very stressful for our family. And just for various reasons, different podcasts, we decided to pack up and move back to Australia. We arrived back in Australia with 18 suitcases, 18 pieces of luggage, and $3,000 cash in my pocket. The end, that's it. We had nothing back in Australia to come back to. We still had our ownership in the business, and that reaped huge financial rewards in later years. But then for the next 8 years, we were back in Australia doing it tough financially, but we were together as a family and loving it. So our years in our 30s were financially challenging the whole time. When we did move back over to run the scuba business, we brought our partners out and we moved back over there 8 years later. We always, for the first few years, constantly put everything back into the business to keep the business feeding us, because we knew it would feed us. We had to keep feeding it. We had to keep allowing that cash flow in there. And so I would say with finances, yes, it's worth taking risks, but get some wise counsel. I had a friend of family who was, in my opinion at the time, a very successful business person. He had multiple businesses. He'd started from nothing. At one time, he was doing 3 jobs, and one of those jobs was washing dishes in a restaurant at night. And he decided he came from very humble beginnings, and he had multiple businesses going at this time. And he would have probably at that time, I rang him up, and he knew who I was. We'd never really talked much before. He'd had some wise words of wisdom to me probably when I was about 20, and and that was just for 2 minutes. So now in my late 20s, I rang him up and said to him, I'm thinking of starting this business. I would love to pick your brain and tell you what I want to do and see what you think. And he was very happy to. So I had a mentor there. Now, I only went and visited him once, but I spent probably an hour or more with him, probably an hour and a half, and talking with him. So I sought him out. And because he was a family friend, it was not going to be an expense for me. I didn't have to pay this person. And there was no financial benefit from him in any way. He wasn't going to get a share of anything I made. So I sought wise counsel. I didn't just come up with my own idea. We didn't have the internet back then. I didn't just go and watch a TikTok video for 10 minutes of someone who came up with spruiking some amazing idea, and there's 50 million of those every day. I'd come up with the idea, and through synchronicities and everything like that, that's another podcast. But I did also go and seek wise counsel from someone who'd been in multiple businesses and was living in a big flash 3-story house with an elevator and an indoor pool. And certainly the richest person I knew that I could approach, and they would know who I was, I can tell you. And he was really happy that I had come to him. He had a son probably about my age, and he could really relate to who I was, and he knew my wife's family a lot better than he knew me. And he was stoked and really happy. So I say to you, don't be afraid to do that. Be humble. Seek wise counsel from people who have had a lot more success in that area than you have. So just watching a TikTok video, you don't know what that person is. They're just spruiking off all sorts of stuff of who they are and what they are. It doesn't matter if they've got 200 followers on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, or 200,000 or 25 million. That could all be bullshit on there. Like, you want to see the fruits of their life. And if it's just financial you want to talk to them about, just check out the fruits of their life financially. If you want to see what the fruits of their life family-wise or spiritually, then check that out as well. Some people are very, very good financially and they're screwed up in the rest of their lives. So it doesn't mean we don't take their advice, no, not for a second, but it does mean we consider that they're screwed up in other areas. So I'm going to take their financial advice, but I'm really going to weigh it up and think about it. If I follow this advice, has it got the potential to screw my family life up, my spiritual life, my physical life? let me think about those things as well before I jump headlong into the advice they've given. But if you can get one-on-one with someone like that, it's wonderful. It's like having, if you want to work, improve your physical body, you get a personal trainer. And you don't get a personal trainer who's sitting there eating, take out with a big belly and they're just barking orders from the lounge. You get someone who's lean and mean and 10 times more physically fit than you are. That's basic stuff. So they might be screwed up financially. That's okay. You don't want that advice from them. You want physical advice. But if it's financial advice you want, seek wise counsel. And if it's other advice for emotional issues, spiritual issues, your career goals, you want to start a business, things like that, then seek out those wise people. And don't be afraid to do that. So at 30, when we're in our teenage years, we think we know it all, absolutely know it all. I look back now when I was 30 and I thought I knew it all still. I really did. But as I've shared with you, there's some areas there where I was willing to accept help that was offered. And there was also help that I sought out. Now, some help I had to pay for. When we went to start our business over on the island, we needed a foreign investment permit. We had to incorporate a business. I had no idea of any of that, zero idea. So I went and I asked around different people that I met, who's a good lawyer, And I got some advice and it all stemmed back into one particular person. So I went and sought them, paid them what I thought at the time was a real lot of money. And I had someone I could, because they worked for a flat fee, which was good because then I could ask as many questions as I want. It didn't cost more. I got some serious value out of that. But I sought wise counsel that I couldn't access for free. And I had to pay for it, and that worked out really well. So, yeah. So they're the things, when I was 30, that's where I was at. And so things to know when you're 30. Chill out. Seek wise counsel. Be patient with yourself. It'll work out. Don't beat yourself up. And, surround yourself with good people, good food, good music, relax, meditate, tap into your intuition, because doing things like that, seeking out good food, meditating, chilling out, relaxing, is going to assist with your intuition. I hope that's been some great advice for you, for some of you who are around that age, or some of you who are younger or older and some of those things resonated with you. Till next week, I love you all. Stay chilled and keep smiling. Bye-bye.
Well, we're at the end of another thought-provoking episode. Remember to subscribe so you'll be alerted to new episodes. I want to say thank you to the men who are joining me on this journey of intuitive development. I truly hope our time together has expanded your reality and reinforced trust in your ever-reliable gut feeling. Embrace your intuition. It will not lead you astray. Until next time, stay tuned, stay curious, and trust your gut.